Okay, first I want to remind everybody the shir is l'schus, the Rafua Shlema, speedy recovery, and full recovery, Bez Hashem, of Mayan Emuna Bas Rachaleya, Bas Chanaleya, sorry. And I think it's kedai to point out that this shir is rooted in Avas Yisrael, which makes the Limud HaTorah so much more valuable to the Eibishter. This idea was actually Mechal Payis, that we're sitting by Fabrengen and we're thinking how we apply ourselves even more to speedy the recovery, and Mechal prepares the Farbaisen with tremendous dedication. Okay, so we're Parshas Vayeshev, and I had the time to go through, delve deeper, and think about one specific part of the Parsha, which is a fascinating one. And actually, it's not just central here, it's also central to the entire continuation of the story of the Shvatim. Why? Because if you look at Rashi, there's many parshas that begin to describe Toldos. Toldos could mean the descendants, or it could mean the happenings, the chronicles, right? And the pasuk prefaces to the entire story of the brothers not appreciating Yosef, and Yosef telling them his dreams and getting them even more incited. The pasuk introduces this story by saying, Eila told us Yaakov. These are the descendants, or these are the chronicles of Yaakov. And then it jumps straight into the story. Yosef ben Shvayis Rishana, Yosef was 17 years old, Unar, and he beautified himself, as the way Rashi explains. So Rashi already is bothered by this. Well, this is the this is the description of the descendants. So Rashi brings a few ways to understand this. Rashi brings, he says, Toldos means how they ended up where they ended up. So this sparked the entire, it got the ball rolling. It snowballed into a whole, evolved into Yidden going down to Mitzrayim. And Rashi says this is Take Pshuta Shel Mikra. Pshuta Shel Mikra is Eila Toldos. This is what sparked it. But then Rashi goes in fascinatingly and points and bridges. He brings an Agada to explain. He brings an Agada to connect this with descendants also. He says there's something about Yaakov's essence that he pashat. Yosef was the continuation of Yaakov. He says whether it's he looked like Yaakov, Zivikunin Shaloi, whether it was because he invested, he only got married to Leah and Bilhah and Zilpah because he wanted Rachel. So Be'etzem, this is the Toldos of Yaakov. Very interesting. He also brings, and this is the final one, which is even more fascinating, to me, Al Kapanim, he says, whatever happened to Yaakov happened to Yosef. His brothers didn't appreciate him, fought with him, and tried to kill him. And it equates Mamish, Esav to the other brothers. So actually, maybe we'll get back to this if we have time, but actually, this story somehow is going, when we describe the relationship of Yaakov and Yosef, we're going to understand that this is the main Toldos, according to the Medrash Agada, and according to Pshuta, the way we understand it is that this started off the entire future of Am Yisrael with Mitzrayim and with the whole what evolved into what the Eibishter initially told Avraham Avinu. This is what got it going. So let's jump into the story itself. So I'm going to point out, I think I'm going to cut to the chase. I'll right away share with you what bothered me tremendously about this story. And then and then try to unpack specific psukim with Rashis to try to piece together the way Rashi describes to us the story, and try to, based on that, understand Rashi's view of this of the entire story. So, what's going on? Yosef is, if I tell you, I run a school, if you have a child that comes running to his father and describes all the bad things about his brothers, right? That's gonna cause a problem. Especially when it seems to everyone that the father's believing it, because he's prioritizing the son over all the other sons. The Gemara even relates to this. The Gemara says a person shouldn't make a chalukah bein abanim, because look what happened when Yaakov just invested that amount of money to buy him a special coat. Look what happened. But let's think about it. That's what Yaakov was doing. We could also get to Yosef afterwards, that he starts telling him his dreams. I mean, that's the next level. But what's even, for me, what I started noticing is that it seems like their emotions towards Yosef weren't they developed. It seems like at the beginning, the fact that he was going and talking to their father about, and he was, that didn't bother them so much. It bothered them that the father loved him. I want to point it out in the psukim. Let's see. Pasuk Beis and Gimel and Dalet. Okay. Ela told us Yaakov Yosef ben Shrais Reshonim. Yosef was 17 years old. Hayaroyas Echav. He would pasture with his brothers. Okay. Batzoin, the sheep. V'hu nar. Rashi says he was acting childly, and he connected very much with Bnei Bilav as Bnei Zilpa and Shei Aviv. By Yava Yosef as the Basam Ra Alaviyam. Yosef brought their negative tidings to their father. The Yisrael, somehow this is connected, their father Yisrael, Oav Yosef Mikol Banov, he appreciated him over the other brothers, over his other sons, Ki Ben Skunim Huloi, because he was his son that was born to him at old age. And he made him a ksenis pasim. So evidently, Yaakov didn't appreciate Yosef because of what he was telling him. He had this innate appreciation. It's his younger. Vayiru Echav. The brothers saw ki oisei ahav aviyim mikol Echav. They noticed that he loves them more than all the brothers. Vayisnu oisei, they hated him. V'lo yachlu dabre l'shalom. Okay, why? If you look at Pasuk Dalid, why did the brothers hate him? Because the father loved him more. Nothing to do with Dibasam Ra, with what he was tattletaling and telling the father stories. That somehow didn't bother them. When do we find that they started hating him? So then, Vayachlim Yosef Chaloim. He had a dream. Vayagid Lachav, when he told it over to his brothers. Vayesifu oitznoi oisai. They added, and now they hate him also. If I'm reading correctly, okay. Either they added in the hate, but it seems like they also hated. This was like an additional level. Only after the second dream do you find, which is only after the dream, after they spoke to him, it says, "Vayisifu oitznoi oise al chalamoisa val dvarov." After the dream, after they spoke to him, they hated him because of his chaloimis ve'al dvarov, What's the al dvarav? All of a sudden now they started hating him for what he was talking to their father the whole time. So he's looked at Rashi. Al dvarav, al dibasam rasha maybe la'aviyim. What? Only after the dream did they start, it started bothering them what he was yapping before. Well, something happened here. It seems like till the dream, they took an issue with the fact that the father liked it and loved him more, but okay. I want to share. So let's look a little bit at some Rashis here. Let's think. The Shvatim were Tzadikei Olam. They didn't hang out. They did not speak with Bnei Bila and Bnei Zilpa. Right? Why? They were called Bnei Ashvachis. You should know that this is not a new concept. In Yachas, in Yichus, so to speak, they're of lower level, even though Al Piteira goes by the father. But the Metzius was that they looked at them as lower status. And this is mentioned in passing earlier. Actually, it's even interesting the way it's bunched together with between V'hu Nar and he's hanging out with Bnei Bila and Zilpa. Vayavid Basam Ra Laviyam. These three details are what we know about Yosef at the beginning. Okay? In Pasuk Beis, when it's describing Yosef at that point in time, it says, Hayeroyim Mechav, he would pasture together with his brothers. Vunar, he acted childly, as Rashi says. And as Bnei Bil is Bnei Zilpa, he connected with them, as Rashi tells us, because his brothers were Mevazah, so he drew them closer. And he would go to his father and bring the Basam Ralavim. So I think it's very interesting that that's the description of Yosef. First of all, there's good and bad. Seemingly, the way we look at it now, it seems like there's good and bad mixed together, right? It's very nice that he's Mekar of Bnei Ashvachis, stepping in for the older brothers, pushing them away, the other brothers. And there is the fact that he keeps on going to his father, and then he's doing Maisa Nairus. He's beautifying himself. Right? You follow? It's just a little bit interesting when you're trying to get a picture of who we're talking about. This is the description. Right? Oh, Michal. Just in time. Yeah. So, Michal, there are three details that describe Yosef. Vunar. Yeah, Michal, join us. There are three details that describe Yosef when we get our royal introduction. He combs his hair. He is Mekarev Bnei Ashvachis. He brings them closer. Yeah? And he goes to his father and tells over what he saw. As Rashi says, Kol Masha, whatever he was able to speak negative, he would go to say. Okay? That's the way Rashi teaches the word Diba. Oitzaz Diba literally means like to it's not just tattletale, it's also like a lashon hara. Okay? Rashi goes through exactly what it was and what his mistake was. But the fact is, so why is that the description of Yosef? And going back to what we asked before, we don't seem to find that at the beginning the Shvatim have an issue with Yosef until after. Not until he says the dream, until afterwards. All of a sudden, okay. So a thought goes as I. You should know that by the Shvatim, there was a tremendous midas emes. Tremendous midas emes. To the extent that Rashi brings lo yachlu echav dabre l'shalom, because they didn't appreciate it and they couldn't bring themselves to say words of peace. Rashi says that they were echad b'peh echad b'lev. They couldn't what would it be called in English? Because they couldn't just give compliments if they weren't at it. They were tremendous anshe emes, and therefore, Ulei Shleimer, that they couldn't connect to Bnei Bilah and Bnei Zilpah. There is a real status difference between Shifcha and Gevirta. There's a real difference between the master and the slaves. To the extent that Yaakov, to the extent that Avram Avinu tells Eliezer, "Ein arum mizdabek b'baruch." Avodim are from Bnei Canaan, Cham, whatever, and they're Arur, they're cursed ones. And looking at the Shvatim as real, as Anshe Emes through and through, for them to connect to Bnei Bilah and Bnei Zilpah, you know, even in Lahavdil, obviously, and if you go in the mansions, and where is it, in New England, they had different quarters for slaves. They had a different status, Pasha. They're not chas v'shalom subhuman, but there is a difference. Their chiyuvim are different in terms of. That's why it's not so. It's actually as Hashgacha brothers we're now learning in Rambam Shloisha Prakim, Hilchos Avadim just started. A person can't sell himself as a slave. He's absolved of a whole bunch of mitzvahs. So the brothers, they are not connecting to Bnei Bilah, Bnei Zilpah. How do they see the fact that Yosef is connecting with them? How do they see? What do they see? They see that he's a nar. He's childish. And he's still figuring things out. He's the youngest brother, or of the younger brother, sorry. Good. And he's trying to figure his life out and to figure out the world around him. So he's running to Yaakov and telling this, that, and the other. What he sees this, what he saw that. And that he... and for that reason, he's able to connect with the Bnei Bilah and Bnei Zilpah. You're a svara. Which means that V'hu Nar gives us the understanding of why they were able, it didn't bother them, the fact that he's hanging out with Bnei Bilah and Bnei Zilpah, and it helped them understand what he's going to his father about. What they didn't appreciate and what they hated really was the fact that Yaakov Avinu loved Yosef because he was a ben Skunim. I mean, ein mikra yetzim de pshutai. Favoritism is hard to swallow. Befrat, when there's no reason for it. In Inyan, by the Shvatim, it's very black and white. There's the children of the Imois and their maidservants that they brought in. Again, this is all fresh. Yishmael was also brought in the same way, right? Just think about it for a second. The Shvatim knew Uncle Yishmael. He was brought into the family in the same way that Bnei Bilah and Bnei Zilpah were brought. They didn't have children. So Sarah said, Lai Bana Mimena, and brought in Hagar. And he had some more children also, Avram Avinu, and sent them away. I don't know what they are, right? So Yosef hanging around with them, in their mind this was nar. What bothered them was that Yaakov should love Yosef not as a son, but as a son that was born mamish ben skunim, fact that they were born the latest, why? Why should that be a reason? That's what bothered him. It's clear from Rashi, yeah? And it says clearly why he loved them. He loved them because Ben Skunim Ulai.
That makes it sound like jealousy, and that they had a tie against Yaakov.
Right. And that's what's interesting. We pointed out at the beginning of this year that it's pretty clear that at the beginning their feelings for Yosef were strictly because of Yaakov. Only later on in the story, al chalamosav al dvorov, that all of a sudden the diburim. So here's where you have to notice all of a sudden the brothers, if the svara is correct, that the bunching together v'hu nar connects with the way they looked at his connecting with Nebil and Bnei Zilpa, and they basam no, it all switched when he came with a chalim. Because we know that the Gemara says that a chalim is plays out based on the way it's interpreted. And they were emistic. Now, you should know that if they had the opportunity to analyze the dream and interpret it in a different way, they wouldn't be so angry. But they were the ones that were interpreting the dream. When Yosef came and said that I had this dream, that already, for them already caused a problem. This is not just a child that's growing up and he's trying to figure things out and he's telling his father things because he wants to know what's wrong from right. No, Hitaka looks at himself greater. Hitaka looks at himself greater. And not only that, how does he look now all of a sudden? Now all of a sudden, they were disrespected. Now why? Because if this is not Maisenairos, then all of a sudden in this dream reveals that he connects to Bnei Bila and Bnei Zilpa. From his perspective, Bnei Bila and Bnei Zilpa are on the same level as all the other brothers. And all of them are under him. That's the dream. Right? So all of a sudden, this is not just a nar. This is a dream. It's not. And this, they couldn't handle. Not only that, now all of a sudden, al chalamosav al dvorov. Now all of a sudden, retroactively, the fact that he came to the father and was sharing with them things, this all of a sudden bothered him.
Were they saying that Yaakov's favoritism got to Yosef's head? And that's why now he thought he was greater?
So, I think they started realizing that Yaakov's favoritism was a real thing. Jealousy is jealousy. I'm saying, okay, he appreciates the child that was born later. But in their mind, there's nothing, he didn't do anything wrong. They didn't have any problem with Yosef. Aside the way they understood his Hanhaga, and even more than that, he didn't do anything wrong that he was born the last, and his father appreciates him more. Nothing wrong. They couldn't stand the fact that he's getting, a different treatment. Say that. But that's not his problem. The second they started realizing that no, Yaakov Avinu has a different look on him. Taka, he's different than the other boys. He's Taka on a different level. And now they all of a sudden see that he sees himself above all of them equally. It's not pshat that just it's not pshat just he doesn't respect them. In the dream, they're all equal. This is before the second dream that the parents are also equal. But this, all of a sudden, that's why their response to him, right? They said, "Hamolech timlech aleinu, mashel tim shel banu." It's I would just add, okay? There's many ways you could interpret. There's a whole bunch of bundles. They bow to his bundle. I don't know. He'll be more successful. Right? I think that the shot of him looking at all the brothers equally, to them, may have meant that you are like you think that you're like the Adon over here. We're equal to Bnei Ashfachas, and you're Pashat the master here. And that's how they understood the bowing, not just the financial stability. There's kol minih zachen that could have been interpreted when you look at alumos, at grain. Their response was Hamalech timlach aleinu mashel tim shel bani. You're the king. This is before even the father, the king over here. We are all. And this helps us a little bit understand also that when he came with the second dream, you should know that Yaakov Avinu, the depth of Yaakov Avinu's appreciation for Yosef goes back to what we started. The truth is, it's not only ben skunim. It says that Av Yosef Mikol Yisrael Av as Yosef Mikol Bano Ki ben skunim Huloi. The reason is because he was the youngest son. You should know that the Unkelus teaches Bar Hakimhu, the wisest of all his sons. Look at that. Look at the Pasuk Gimel in Unkelus. Right? Ben Skunim Huloi. Arei Bar Hakim Huloi. And Rashi explains, Rashi takes that to the next level. Look, Rashi says, the first pshat, it says, Shenod lo lezikno, so that's a simple reading. V'unkelus tirgem bar chakim hulei, and Rashi explains, what that means is, Kol ma shalom ad mishem va'ever masalei. He gave over to Yosef everything he learned from Shem va'ever. Yaakov, it wasn't just favoritism. And this is what Yaakov Avinu, Aviv Shamar Sadavar, Yaakov Avinu understood that just like what happened to him with Esav, and was now he started seeing that this is happening with Yosef, and therefore Ulay Yeshleimar. We started off and we asked, well, what was Yaakov thinking? What was Yaakov thinking? He's coming to say the Basam Ra. And Yaakov loves him because Ben Skunim Ulay. Going back to the beginning of the Parsha where it says Ela Toldus Yaakov, that Yosef is the Toldus of Yaakov because Yosef is the one that not only looked like Yaakov, was going through the life of Yaakov as well. Yaakov Avinu said, okay, the brothers are not going to appreciate him. That's not going to change. That's what it's going to be. If he's the one that I'm giving over the Messiah to, if he's the one, and he loved him, Ben Skunim, as Rashi says, he gave him the whole Shem Ba'ever, and he looked like him. Rashi says Ben Skunim is because he's Ziv Ikunin. He looked like Yosef, like Yaakov. Anyways, therefore, you can understand why Yaakov Avinu, it says, when he came the second time with his dream, Yaakov Avinu started poking holes in the dream. And it says clearly because he wanted to appease, he wanted to pacify the other Shvatim. Right? Why? He could have just got angry at him. Because the way you interpret the dream, that's the way it's going to be. And none of them thought for a second there's a different way to explain this. So by the Shvatim, the first dream, they right away said, he's going to be a king over us. Everything that happened before, the way he's talking to them, the way he's comparing us to the Bnei Ashvachas, there's a problem here. And he's also wrong. But that's the dream. What saved him was the second dream. Because the second dream, he put also his father and mother together. He said there's a Chadasar Kechavim, Mishtachim Li, that included his father and his mother. So he said, so Yaakov Avinu said, Havoyna vayani imcha ba'achecha. Rashi said, just like your mother passed away, and it's not for real. She won't ever reach a point that this will actually come to fruition. The whole dream won't be the reality. But Rashi says, it was really referring to Bilha. But really, Yaakov, why did he do this? He wanted to take out from his brother's hearts, they shouldn't be mekana. Because he wanted to poke holes in the dream. The second the dream doesn't work, then they don't need to be afraid. The dream is what was getting them against Yosef. But the truth is, Aviv Shamar Sadabar. Yaakov Avinu saw the whole story playing out the way it was in his life. That's the way he saw it playing out by Yosef. And therefore, Aviv Shamar Sadabar, he was just waiting. He said he wanted to see how it's going to play out. So what we have here, just to sum it all up, what we're learning, is just to understand how brothers reached a point that they wanted to either kill him or sell him as a slave. Selling Yosef as a slave is from all your explanations and understandings with your dreams that you're going to mashal timshal aleinu. The second we lower you to that level, so then this will clarify the whole story with Bnei Bilah, and the dream is not true. Just like if we kill you, the dream is not coming to pass. So, how did they reach from one point to the next? So again, we're going to just to go through quickly. We said in Pasuk Daled that the father loved. We're going to just summarize this whole thought. The brothers saw that Yaakov loves him, therefore they hated him. That was their distaste of Yosef was just because of Yaakov. Because at the beginning, when they were looking at Yosef, anything he was doing was childish. Vehu nar, right? Simcha. There's three descriptions of Yosef. One is that he's a child, Punar, and he's doing childish things. He's combing himself, etc. And there's connecting to the Bnei Ashvaches and bringing the Basam Ra Aviyam. The way I understand it is they connected all three together. He's a nar, he's childish. That's why That's why he's asking his father all the time and going to the father and say, I saw this, I saw that. He wants to learn. And that's why he's connecting to Bnei Ashvaches. Their only problem was with the father. Like, why is he prioritizing them? Then when he came to say the dream, that's where all of a sudden, they started seeing, no. This is, in reality, this is Taka believes. And not only he believes, they started reading into what Yaakov Avinu didn't just appreciate him as Ben Skunim, but now that he has such a dream, they're equal to Bnei Ashvaches. When you think about the emes of the Shvatim, and therefore you see Yaakov trying to poke holes in the dream, but he Shamar Sadavar because Yaakov Avinu Betzim saw Zivi Kunin Shaloi, whether it was all the Pshatim. Okay. So this is a thought a little bit into the way Yaakov saw Yosef's character and the way he was handling the brothers and the way the brothers saw Yosef before and after the dream. It is Taka very interesting that Yaakov was Pashut awaiting to see how this plays out, and he sent him Hebron. Okay, I'm going to share a few verta on the Parsha. This is a vart. It's a nice vart. Vart comes from Division, say. 1 second. The Oy Yisrael. Is that the after? Yeah, Reb Chaim Tzanzer, sorry, mistake. Okay. Reb Chaim Tzanzer, you should know that one of the big... Yeah? Okay. Oh, right. Halberstam. That's true. So, Reb Chaim Tzanzer once asked a Yid, can you help me collect money? I need a Gabba to go with me to collect money for the causes that the Rebbe's collected. You should know that the Polish Gutta Yidden, they took a tremendous level of responsibility for their kehillas. They were like a father to their kehillah. Very Rebbe. It means what even more of their time went for that than for the Avodas Hashem per se. In Avodas Hashem per se, it's not like Chassidus Chabad that the Rebbe teaches and they chaza and they think. I mean, there's also Toyris, but the main part of the Hiskashos Rebbe is by a farbrengen, by a tish. He gets them excited and they're connected to him. But other than and that's that it's Darkei Baal Shem Tov. We just had the limit of Chassidus, the Darkei Chassidus. Tremendous power of Chassidus in that as well. But the Pasha Tadaige for them was a leader, a father. So they would go collect for the people of their kehillah. So Reb Chaim Tzanzer asked somebody if he could come join him to collect. So he said, this person said, I don't have time. It's mevatel my learning. It's not for me. So the Tzanzer Rav said to him, he got very shooken up by this. His learning is more important than. And he says, you should know that we find 2 times that our Avos met a ish, a man. We find by Avik ish imoy, by Yaakov, right? He went over for the Pachim Ktanim, and all of a sudden, by Avik ish imoy adolais hashachar. Who's this ish? Sarah shel Esav. Over here, we find Yosef going to search for his brothers. Vayimtza'eu ish, Toyu basada, yeah. And he asked him, what are you looking for? So Rashi tells us who is this ish. This is Gabriel. How does Rashi know that this is Gabriel and this is the Sarah of Esav? Both of them just say ish. How do you know that this is Esav and this is Gabriel? So he says, when Yaakov Avinu asked for the Malch, what did he ask her? Yaakov Avinu asked the Malch, can you bench me? Barcheni, ki ola shachar. Barcheni. The Malch said, I don't have time. I need to go. I can't, I need to go. He said, this is Esav. By Yosef, it says he's going around in the field, and this guy sees him. He says, Matavakeshi on his own. He starts asking him, how can I help you? I'll guide you. He says, this is Gabriel. He says, that's the difference. Another interesting part is this is from the Soloveitchik's Kundas, that it says the brothers threw him into a boir. Now what's interesting is that Reuven came and said, Ma betza. What are we going to gain by killing him? Let's throw him into a pit. Now, Reuven was planning to save him, but he threw him into a pit that had Nachashim Vakrabim, right? So what was that Chachma about? He's coming to save him. He says, let's not kill him. Let's put it into a pit that's going to kill him on its own. What was the birth? So, he brings... exactly. As he brings, I think there's Zev Soloveitchik. He brings, there's a Gemara and Gemara... Yeah. Yeah, Revelvo. Revelvo in Yerushalayim. He said there's a Gemara in Brachas, Lamed Gimel, It describes Chanina ben Doisa. Now, Chanina ben Doisa, someone told him there is a roid, but it seems like this is a type of nachash, a type of snake that's very dangerous, and they're afraid this was coming out of its den. I guess the snake's hole in the ground and biting people and killing people. So they came and told Yochanan ben Daisa. So he went and he said, "Show me where's the hole." They showed him where the entrance to the thing. So he put his heel on the entrance, and it came out and bit his heel, and the snake died. So he took the snake out and put it on his shoulders and went to the Beis Medrash and told them, "From here you see, Re'u Bonai, see my sons, that it's not the snake, it's not the ore that's meimis, it's the chait that's meimis. What kills a person is not the snake. What kills the person is the averus of a person. The Eibusher makes it happen punked at the same time that a snake bit him, but it's not the snake." They said they put it to the test. Yudah knew. He didn't have any averus. I'm saying even what they didn't appreciate was the way he was relating to Shvachim. I mean, unless the Basam Ra, it's interesting. But actually, that was pshat. They put him in the border.
Really, they knew that nothing was going to happen to him.
If he has that level, if he has that tzidkis,
But if they thought he was Chav Yisa,
right? So it doesn't go hand in hand the way they understood that he's challenging the Malucha of Yehuda, challenging the. This brings to another story that I think, this is an akuda in Bitachon, okay. Also, the shir is the schus, Ma'ayin Munachaya Bas Chanaleya. So Bitachon is a yisoid. It's really part of the Farbringen already. That Mendel Vitebsker, Mendel Hardaka, as I bring to, was in the end of his life. Yeah.
Vitebsker and Mendel Hardaka is the same person?
Precisely. The Alter Rebbe was a Talmud by him, was a Talmud Muvak. Considered him a Rebbe after him, such a Magid. So the Mendel Hardaka was when they were in Tveria, Dubani. They were in Tveria. He's buried in Tveria, Taka. But at the end of his life, there was a pandemic, and all the Mendel Hardaka and all his chassidim, they decided they're going to quarantine together. Hear this, Ma'asamo? They all decided, yeah, it's a wonderful idea. They locked themselves up, and they said no one's going out, no one's coming in. That's mamash the lashon of the. One person decided, I have to go to mikveh. And everyone else, we're doing what we're doing. We're quarantining. That's it. I have to go to mikveh. And he went out for mikveh, and he got the machla, and he died, passed away. So the Mendel Hardaka said, you should know, people think he passed away because he went to mikveh. No. He passed away because he didn't believe he didn't have strong enough emuna in Hasheichin Ita B'Seif Tomasam. That the Eibishter is found between us, even when we're not tahir. Well, why he brings this to mind is because in Shar B'Tachon, it's fascinating. The perspective. Yeah. Well, this we have to live. It's not a shir. This is real life story. In Shar B'Tachon, it's very clear that your work doesn't equal the money, even if you get a paycheck from your work. You need to work because the Eibusher said to work, and the Eibusher is paying you. The fact that the Eibusher is paying you through here, even if at some point it's not working, you still go to the same job. You continue working because the Eibusher said to work. It has nothing. The fact that you happen to get the paycheck from the place that really is from the Eibusher. Everything's the Eibusher. The Eibusher decided that you need to work, you go to work. The Eibusher decided to pay you this way. Maybe you continue working. The Eibishter, even if it doesn't bring the paycheck anymore, the Eibishter will pay you in a different way. You continue doing what the Eibishter told you to do. You work here, the Eibishter will give you money in a different way. And what this brings to mind is this word, the story of Reb Chanina ben Doisa. He says, why do people get killed by snakes? Not because the snake has the ability to kill. They have Aveira, and then the Eibishter sets it up that they get hit by a snake. And it looks like the snake killed them. But really what killed them was the chait. V'haraya, I stood there. I didn't have a chait. So it died instead of me dying. And as the Remendel Hardakir, Remendel was telling them, he passed away because he left. The Eibishter runs the world. Right now we're supposed to be here. For whatever reason, that was the rule. I'll finish afterwards the story of the Maggid. But the rule is we need to be here. So you have to know don't try to outsmart. There's a different kedusha that you'll get through. You're going to make it be holier than us, and you'll connect to the Eibishter. If this is where we're at, the Eibishter is here totally, exactly like anywhere else.
In that moment, you didn't need mikvah. So in that moment, you didn't need mikvah. That's really
Correct. And what's interesting is you think about the Vart. His problem is because he didn't believe in Asher Chenitim B'Seichtem Masam. Not that we're holy. You have to recognize that sometimes a person is in a matzav that he didn't go to mikveh. It's not pshat. Mendel said that it's not needed mikveh. No, it's b'soif to masam. But the Eibishter put us here, so the Eibishter could be with us here. The Eibishter is not less here with us. So this connects. We connect it to Yudis Kislev also. Yudis Kislev is the yahrzeit of the Mezritcher Maggid, the Greiser Maggid. The Mezritcher Maggid is buried where? Mezritcher Maggid is buried in Anipoli. Now, the story that's brought how he ended up in Anipoli was that at the end, it's just Parsha goes, there's also a story of a quarantine. There was the Mezritcher, something was, either the machla, there was a heavy machla during like a big, once upon a time it was rampant that if disease started getting around, they thought it was mice, and I don't know what they thought it was, but anyways, so I think it was in Mezhebush, I'm not sure where it was, whether it was in Mizrich, whether it was in Anipoli. Masha Batuach, the Moishel of Anipoli, the leader of Anipoli, said no one is allowed to come from a different town to this town. Anyone that comes to visit is going to be put to death. That's it.
Even if you got a vaccine card?
No, maybe he would agree. The problem is that there were no vaccines yet. But Reb Zusha realized that that Chassidim can't go to the Mezritcher Maggid, and it was lacking. The Mezritcher Maggid was older, so he brought him to Anipoli, and word got out. It's not complicated for word to get out. Everyone started coming to the Beis Medrash, and this got to the Moishel, to the Paras, whatever it was, and he was summoning. He decided he's going to summon the Mezritcher Maggid and follow through on, make good on his words. And Reb Zusha of Anipoli came to him. He said he's going to go instead. He came to him, and he said, you should know like this: if you don't do anything to the Mezritcher Maggid for coming here, nobody's going to die throughout this year. Nobody's going to die. And for a full year, nobody died. Nishpshat, of old age, of machlas, of nothing. Nobody died for a whole year. He knew, he relied on Rav Zusha. Rav Zusha was a tzir of Anava. And yeah.
But eventually the Maggid passed away in Anipoli?
But the Maggid passed away in Anipoli. And you know what's also fascinating? It's my own thought, but I'm sure I'm not the only one that thought about this. The people closest to the Mezritcher Maggid buried are the people that gave Askama on Tanya. See, Rav Zusha of Anipoli, and you're the Lev HaKoyin, are buried right near the Mezritcher Maggid. Wow. It's just a fascinating thing that of all the Talmidei Maggid, the ones buried right near him, are the ones that gave the askama on the Sefer HaTanya of the Alter Rebbe. It speaks to a little bit of the, not only the kesher to the Magid, but also that the Alter Rebbe, one of the reasons why certain Talmidei Magid didn't appreciate the Alter Rebbe was because they felt that it's not the Derech HaBaal Shem Tov. The Alter Rebbe's way of serving the Eibishter is very novel. You have to say the truth. All Talmidei Baal Shem Tov acted in the same path of the Baal Shem Tov. They told stories, they were Ma'orer Yidden, they sang Nigunim, they danced, they gave Shirayim, and that's it. The Alter Rebbe came with the Chassidus Chabad. We're going to explain and have these hergeshim rooted in understanding that wasn't the Derech HaBaal Shem Tov. I'm saying that's not what we saw. And therefore they were... that's not... but connected to Yudis Kislev. The Baruch of Mezhebush, he tainted, I'm the Einikel. Huh? I'm the Einikel. I'm the continuations. The Alter Rebbe answered, and what did the Alter Rebbe send back? If so, why did I sit for Chassidus and not you? Right. Why did I have to go on Mesiras Nefesh to sit for Chassidus? Everybody in the Chassidus was for the. Someone asked me this week, why is Yudis Kislev a Yom Tif? This is Lil Shishi. It's Ma'ale Shabbata. Continuation of the Farbring of Yudis Kislev. Why is Yudis Kislev a Yom Tif for all Yidden? So Chassidus Chabad. Alter Rebbe was released. They have a derech avoda. So, okay, we know that it's the derech haklali today, and not only that, between me and you, and the wall, and the camera. The fact is today, the derech of Chassidus, that the derech that people are able to serve the Eibishter is use a goyish word, CBT. I'm saying it's cognitive. When a person understands, he has a certain perspective that inspires him. Just a fleeting feeling. And being tzaddik v'manasa yichaya, that he continues going back to the Rebbe, it's not in today's day. It's not sustainable, even with all the clips. It doesn't. You could live off something that you connected with because intellectually you thought about it and you understand, you were mizboinim. We could use another dose, a few doses of Avodas Hashem in
so why is it
I'm getting there. So the kids are so someone asked me, why is this Alter Rebbe? So I started saying now that between us it is the Nachal Saklal at this point. The derech of the Alter Rebbe has become mainstream. Even
was it always a Yom Tov for the Val? Was it always a Yom Tov for the Val?
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't always a Shoshana Chassidus.
Well, it was always the yahrzeit of the Magid.
Oh.
But the truth is, Talmidei Baal Shem Tov Talmidei Magid heard from the Magid that he told Alter Rebbe before his passing, Yudis Kislev is unser Yom Tov. Yudis Kislev is our Yom Tov. Now this is way before Tavkuf Lamed Gimel, I think, and the Alter Rebbe's story is Tavkuf Nun Tes, much later.
Was the Magid around during the?
No. This is much later. The Alter Rebbe was already wrote Tanya. You understand? This is Tavkuf Nun Tes. And this is 30, 40 years later. And almost. And the fact that
were there still Talmidei Baal Shem Tov around when the Alter Rebbe was arrested?
You know what? That's a good question. We have a Kabbalah that Shmuel Munkis saw the Baal Shem Tov.
Yeah.
So there were. But the Talmud of the Baal Shem Tov, was the Mesiras Magid. I mean, it's back to our story. So the fact that someone asked me, why is it a simcha for all Yidden? The fact that the Mesiras Magid included himself in the Alter Rebbe simcha was because the Alter Rebbe sat for all of Torah's Chassidus. There was a kitrug on Chassidus. It was a real kitrug. It means that we don't know if the Eibishter is ready to spill the beans. Imagine the Eibishter created a world with a facade, and you're not meant to see through that layer. You're meant to see things at face value and make correct decisions with your bchira, etc. Chassidus basically came and said, I'm going to tell you what's behind the whole
Like a
story.
cheat code for the game.
Here's I'm going to crack the code. This is what's really going on. There's a alakus, the way to perceive it is like, when you look at it differently, the whole thing just disappears. The problem's not there. Is the world ready ad kedei kach for such a thing? It's really a me'ein of Yemais HaMashiach. It's like kind of a merecha. It's a real kitrug. And the Alter Rebbe sat in prison for this, but the Alter Rebbe sitting in prison was to reveal the light of Chassidus. He sat for everybody. That's what the Alter Rebbe told the Baruch Hu. He said, if you're the Derech HaBaal Shem Tov, so why did I sit, not you? And the fact that the Mezritch Maggid included himself, he said, says, Unser Yamtiv, told Chassidim, and that's why it's a Yamtiv of the Klal also. It told Chassidim, the Talmidei HaMaggid, that the Mezritch Maggid sees himself as part of the Simcha. That the fact that the Alter Rebbe comes out of prison is our Simcha. Not just it was his Ilula. And now that already we have the Chassidus, and the Alter Rebbe went Mesiras Nefesh, you think about it, it's crazy. The Alter Rebbe had to sit Daf L'Yoyim. The Alter Rebbe sat in prison a day for each parak of Tanya. 53 days. The Alter Rebbe was Moisa Nefesh to bring us concepts of Pneumius HaTorah. Imagine when you sit down to learn an Inyan, any Inyan. What's a Nefesh Alikis versus a Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Hara. You know the difference? It's unbelievable. If you think about the Chiddush of the Alter Rebbe. You know the difference, again? A Yetzer is an inclination. That's why it's translated as a good translation. It brings a person to be inclined this direction or that direction, and you have to just decide. So you're neutral, and you need to choose. Either you make a good choice or a bad choice. A nefesh means that when you make a good choice, it's not pshat you got a check and a sticker. When you made a good choice, your whole life force at that point, even down to your toenail, is getting chayes just from Kedusha. Right? That's why the Alter Rebbe had to learn. It's based on Pri Etz Chaim. But neshama is ani asisi, shem shtei nefashos. It's a different neshama. It's a different nefesh. It's a different source of chayes. The simcha that comes with a mitzvah, al pi derech chassidus, the way the Alter Rebbe explained it. This is all explaining Teres HaBaal Shem Tov. He Teres HaBaal Shem Tov. This is the Torah of the Baal Shem Tov. The Rebbe Rashab writes. The Baal Simcha of a mitzvah, one of the simchas of a mitzvah, everything at that point when you're doing a mitzvah, your whole existence comes from Kedusha. Every part of you. Right? And the flip side is scary also. That's why it's not only good and bad. There's Yetzer Tov and there's Yetzer Hara. But in Derech HaChassidus, there's an Nefesh Elokis and Nefesh Abamis, because there's also things that aren't bad. They're klippas noiga, but they're klippa, and therefore iskafia comes to play. There's elikus in everything. Everything it's not just decisions. Everything could be absorbed in elikus, because if you're doing things beheter, if it's l'shem shemayim, that gets elevated. You get your chayes from Nefesh Elokis. And how careful you need to be from Nefesh Abamis, because it's all from klippas noiga, from klippa. Imagine you learn this Inyan, any Inyan in Tanya, and you think to yourself, the Alter Rebbe had to sit a day in prison, which was sakanas nefashos, it was a federal crime to send money. I'm saying what Alter Rebbe was accused of supporting Turkey and trying to overthrow and see himself as king or whatever the stories were. Alter Rebbe was sakanas nefashos. Sat a day to make sure we could understand this. We should be able to have this Inyan. Now we have to live Inyan. So.